Coming up tonight on Speedway Line Report Radio, presented to you by Shaler Acura of Manchester, Connecticut. My co-host Ricky Rotundo and myself will talk to a first-time winner on the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour, driver Eric Goodale. He picked up his first victory this past weekend at Riverhead Raceway. Our second guest was originally scheduled for last Monday night, but unfortunately a family emergency would prevent him from being on. Glen, who competes on the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour, scheduled to join us. And later on in this edition of Speedway Line Report Radio, we'll talk to a driver who competes at the Waterford Speed Bowl, late model driver Jason Palmer. We are streaming live at WATR.com and SpeedwayLineReport.com, where all shows are archived. And we'll take your phone calls, 203-757-1320. Today is Monday, June 30th, 2014. And Speedway Line Report Radio is headed your way right now.
Start your engine.
The green flag is in the air, and it's time for the Speedway Line Report, presented by Shaler Acura of Manchester, broadcasting from our WATR studios in Waterbury, Connecticut, and streaming live around the world. It's 90 minutes of auto racing news. Now, here's your...
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of Speedway Line Report Radio. I'm Gary Denko, right alongside my co-host, Rocket Rick Rotundo from R&R Fabrication. He's also the crew chief on the Eric Burnt SK Modified that competes over at the Stafford Motor Speedway on Friday nights. And he's also the crew chief for Timmy Salamito on the Volante Modified Racing Series. This show is also being brought to you by Embroidery Works, JM Monsanto Auto Body, Jim's Lawn Care Service, Grotto Restaurant,
and Your Car, Your Choice, the Auto Body Association of Connecticut.
Ricky, busy weekend of auto racing, whether it was over at Stafford Motor Speedway, the Whelen Modified Tour was in action at the Riverhead Raceway. We're going to talk about that. And, of course, Stafford Motor Speedway, they compete on Friday nights. And Ted Christopher got back to Victory Lane. You were there calling the shots for Eric. You guys came home with a fourth-place finish. Let's talk about your run and that exciting race that took place in the SKs at Stafford.
It was a good race for the top two guys. They were going back and forth. We got into a problem earlier. We got turned around with just a racing incident. Nobody, it just happens. And we got turned around, went to the back, and we slowly got our way back to the front and ended up finishing fourth. And Jervis came in third. He had a good run, and Chase came in fifth. So another good run after his win. So that was good for them guys there. And it was a good battle that Rocco and Priest had going. They were going back and forth. And Teddy had the best car he had all year. And it was funny, we were just talking about this last Monday night, about Teddy not being, I knew he wasn't happy at 100, just because he's just sitting
right
on that. So he got his 101 now. So, yeah, and he had a really good car. I knew Priest was fast, but when it comes to experience and, the little things here and there, you just weren't going to beat Ted that night. It was just, you could see when he came off the corner. When he came off the corner, he dropped right down to the bottom, so Priest couldn't get the run on him. We gave him the whole outside, said, go ahead. And Priest, was like, I'm not going to be able to get it. I got to hope he misses, messes up a little bit going into the corner or something. But, yeah, all in all, it was a good race. It had to be a great race for the fans. It just had to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And, of course, also on hand, Mike Joy, the voice of NASCAR on Fox, and, of course, Jack Carew were up in the broadcast booth calling the shot for the SK Modified, and I know a lot of people that were on hand for the action. You can also catch Robert Baggett, the YouTube guy, who's also on hand with us here tonight on Speedway Line Report Radio. A lot of people were really loving the call of the SK Modified with Mike Joy and Jack Carew Jr.
Yeah, it was like even a delay, and they let the guys go around for an extra couple laps to let them guys, introduce all the people and everything else. They were really, getting everything they could out of it, so that was good for the fans.
And we talked about the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour being at the Riverhead Raceway, tight bull ring racetrack. I guess there was some good action there. Matt Hirschman, he came home with a third place finish. Here's what he had to say. get to that audio in just a moment. Eric Goodale was the big winner on Saturday night in the NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour event. We're going to be talking to him in just a couple of minutes. Eric is on the line right now. But getting back to that audio, Matt Hirschman driving car number 52. Good, strong run for him, Ricky, at the Riverhead Raceway. Here's what he had to say.
Not much experience here. We race pretty much with guys that at some time have been regulars here or got a lot of experience here. So I'm really happy with it. I mean, Teddy and I were close at the end because we were both free. Eric just had a little bit better car, so congrats to them. He deserves to get his first win. And like you said, a third is like a win, but we were in a position to contend for it. I would like to maybe been able to get it myself. But like you said, great run, the best I've ever had here, and hopefully we can do better with it.
And Ted Christopher, we talked about his big win Friday night at Stafford Motor Speedway in the SK Modified. He'd go to the Riverhead Raceway with car number 13, and he talked about that next to last caution.
Yeah, we had a really good lead at that point, but right after the caution, we just got free, and Eric was just that better. I got in and got myself all screwed up, and he got underneath me, and he had a better car. He took a lot from us. We just were too loose at the last one. So yeah, like you said, we didn't need that restart, but second's a good finish. Really enjoy racing with these guys. We put this car together this week. This is the car that Bob has, and it runs really, really good.
Ted Christopher talking about that second place finish Saturday night at the Riverhead Raceway. When it was all said and done, a first-time winner on the NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour. And anytime you see that, it's all good. Eric Goodale, he's going to join us in just a moment, but we're going to take our first commercial break. And when we come back, we'll talk to Eric Goodale about that victory Saturday night at the Riverhead Raceway. You're listening to Speedway Line Report Radio on WATR 1320 AM. We are also streaming online at speedwaylinereport.com, where all shows are archived, and you can also go to WATR.com. I'm Danko, that's Rotundo, Baggett's here, Graves is here pushing the buttons. In just a moment, we're going to talk to Eric Goodale after we take our first commercial break. Speedway Line Report Radio is presented to you by Shaler Acura of Manchester, Connecticut. Once again, this show is also being brought to you by Embroidery Works, J.M. Montesano Auto Body, Jim's Lawn Care Service, and the Grotto Restaurant.
Acura, there's only one place to go. Shaler Acura in Manchester. Shaler is Connecticut's first Acura
You
dealer.
okay, Tommy?
Shaler offers
Everything
the
okay?
best selection
You sure?
of new and pre-owned Acura.
Everything's all right?
Shaler
Goodale's waiting on hold, so.
But you made sure you called, because I had him scheduled
Yeah,
second.
I know.
And I didn't want to make sure that you didn't call Glen Reen's number.
No.
And I was about to go, that's why I went to this commercial break, because I had to change it, but I didn't change it on the sheet.
No.
But I told you about it, so you went to, okay. All right.
Because I know he's
That's why I didn't want to go and say, well, Eric, congratulations, good victory. And then all of a sudden, hey, no, this is Glen Reen. Oh, Glenn, that's why I went to the break.
There was 90 laps of caution at Riverhead. That's a lot of caution.
Nowhere else but Shaler Acura, 345 Center Street.
That's why I was stalling.
647-7077 or visit them on the web at ShalerAcura.com. Shaler Acura, Manchester.
Opinions expressed on the Speedway Line Report do not necessarily reflect those of WATR management and staff, or the management and staff of the SpeedwayLineReport.com or VintageModifieds.com.
Welcome back.
Your car, your choice, the Auto Body Association of Connecticut.
Okay, our first guest of the evening, he's all set to go. He's going to be a very busy man tonight. Of course, right now doing an interview with us here on Speedway Line Report Radio. Coming up after 7 o'clock, make sure you tune in. Of course, the guys over at Victory Lane Radio, Eric LaFleche and all of his guys. So Eric's going to be on that show as well. But he's all set to go. Eric Goodale now joins us. Eric, how are you? Yeah, well, it was a pretty good day for you and your crew on Saturday night. What's it like to be a first-time winner at a racetrack you know very well, Riverhead Raceway, to get to Victory Lane on the NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour?
I mean, it definitely feels
pretty good. We've been at it for a long time, and we've definitely had cars in the past capable of winning, but just never had the pieces fall right to make it happen. But we had a good car this weekend, and it was extra special to win in front of the family and friends at home there.
What was it like in a battle with TC, Ted Christopher?
Yeah, I mean, I've been watching Teddy race since I've been, 3 or 4 years old at Riverhead, and, I grew up watching him, so it made it that much better to be able to pass one of the best in the business that's ever driven a modified before to get my first win.
Yeah, it's one thing, you finished in front of Teddy Christopher, Matt Hirschman, Ryan Priest. It's a lot of the top guys you beat to get the win, so I mean, that's a real win in the division, winning the modified tour in front of them guys there.
Yeah, I mean that's what's so great about the Wheel Modified Tour is that the competition is you can't get that competition anywhere else. There's any track you show up to, there's 15 guys that can go out there and win a race, and for the most part there's about 5 or 6 guys that win a lot of them, but it all depends on how the race plays out, and like I said, at any given point or in any given race, there's about 15 top-notch cars out there that are capable of winning. So it makes you feel that much better when you can beat those guys.
And Eric, looking at the stats from Saturday night's event at Riverhead Raceway, and Ricky brought this up just before we came back on the air. 11 caution flags for 90 laps. Surprised?
Not at all. I think last year we had one race where we did over 100 laps of caution, so it was good to have a little over 100 green flag laps of racing, and any race where you can get 100 laps of green flag racing is pretty good. So it got a little frustrating there in the meat of the race between lap 90 and 140. There was a couple cautions that came out that definitely could have been avoided, but that's short track racing, and it happens. So I was definitely ready for it.
Eric, you've been running on the NASCAR Wheeler Modified Tour Series for quite some time. Always prepared when you come to the racetrack. You have a good crew. You've had some good finishes before, and I think somewhere along the line I read something, and somebody did an interview with you that you've had a good race car on several occasions in 2014 on the NASCAR Wheeler Modified Tour.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this year more than ever, we've showed up to the track, prepared, ready to go out on the track, and we've been fast out of the trailer every weekend. We've shown up to a tour race this year. So, hats off to my guys in the shop, Jason Shepard and the guys. They do an awesome job preparing the car all week. And, it's a minimal effort on race day when you don't have to go around and make 1,000 changes to the car to make it go good. But, we've run in the top 5 in every single race this year. And like I said, we just haven't had the pieces fall into place where we've been able to finish the race off and be able to finish up there. But, every race that you get to run up front, you gain valuable experience. And, finally it all paid off this past weekend.
What are some of the keys of getting around Riverhead Raceway? I was there once back in 1993, but I've seen a lot of videos from the Riverhead Raceway. Of course, a tight quarter mile, no banking at all. So what are some of the keys in getting around that facility?
Well, one of the biggest things is you can't be afraid to, stick the car out on the outside. And it's, racing there, we've done, I think, 3 races there weekly this year. And, those guys don't give you a lot of room to race on the outside. So it's 2 totally different styles of racing, from racing there weekly to the tour show. But, if you want to pass some cars and if you're back in the field, you definitely can't be afraid to put it on the outside. If your car's hooked up, you can definitely make it work out there. And, that's where I made the bulk of my passes, with the exception of the one to the lead with Teddy when he bobbled. But you definitely have to be able to get up on the outside and be able to make it stick there.
And Eric, what type of chassis do you run on the tour?
Troyer.
And who builds your motors?
Ron Hutter.
And what are some of the sponsors that you have?
We have GAF Roofing, one of the biggest roofing companies in the United States. Riverhead Building Supply, which is our family's company business, based right here on Long Island. and up in Rhode Island as well.
And you know, looking down at the rundown, Eric, of course, you cut your teeth at the Riverhead Raceway.
We have more laps at Stafford and Thompson than I do actually at Riverhead Raceway. In a modified for sure. You know, I grew up there. I raced go-karts there when I was younger, and I raced 2 seasons in the Charger car there and the full fender cars. But you know, other than that, I really haven't done that much racing at Riverhead Raceway in a modified. So I'd say it's probably the 3rd most common track I've raced at. But you know, Thompson and Stafford is definitely where I hold the most laps in a modified.
And it was good to see one of the regulars from Riverhead Raceway, John Beatty Jr. He got the pole in his entry, and of course he led some laps.
Yeah, it was real good to see him, you know, come out there and throw down a really good lap in qualifying, and you know, obviously he had the car to back it up. But you know, I think a couple of the top contenders there in the beginning of the race pushed him really hard. With you know, Ronnie raced him really hard. They were side by side for a bunch of laps, and then once Ronnie got out of the picture and Teddy got up there, you know, there was really never a lap where somebody wasn't pushing him to drive his car really hard, and I think it just forced him to use up his tires. And you know, once I was able to finally get him off the bottom there and I got him up to the top, he fell back pretty quickly. But he definitely had a car to contend with there, and like I said, I think he got pushed a little bit too hard in the beginning of the race to be able to hold on for 200 laps.
And Ricky, one of our guests from last Monday night show on Speedway Line Report Radio, Timmy Salamito, he started 7th, he finished 5th.
Yeah, it was also another good run for him.
In the family, you know, he's one of my cousins, and you know, he's a great race car driver. He can do some things in a race car that a lot of people can't. So I'm always rooting for Timmy, and it was good to see him finish up there.
We're talking with Eric Goodale from Riverhead, New York. He put his car into the winner's circle this past Saturday night at the Riverhead Raceway. The phone lines are open at 203-757-1320. I'm Danko, right alongside Rotundo. We're also streaming online at WATR.com, and you can also go to SpeedwayLineReport.com for our modified driver Tom Ormsby, the webmaster of SpeedwayLineReport.com, where all shows are archived. Back on with Eric Goodale. So Eric, now you got that first victory. The confidence level is where?
You know, it's about where it's always been. You know, I've always, you know, I always, going into every race weekend, expect to be able to run in the top 5 and bring home a good finish. But we're really in the meat of our schedule here, where we got a lot of tracks where we run really well at every year. And you know, we're going into New Hampshire in a couple weeks, and you know, we've been a top 5 car there for the past 2 or 3 years. So you know, confidence is definitely high, and you know, morale is good on the crew to get that first victory, and you know, hopefully the next couple come a little bit easier. But definitely, you know, expectations are still the same, to show up there and try the best we can to win the race.
Yeah, I mean, you're having a great season. You're 8th in the points and working your way up. So, you know, Loudon, I've been to Loudon many times, and I've seen you run up front there. I mean, it's a great track. So, I mean, good luck to you at Loudon.
Yeah, thank you. You know, the one thing that really hurts us is, you know, I feel like we got a pretty good pit crew, and you know, having a halfway break takes a lot of the strategy out of it, and you know, that hurts us a little bit. But you know, we got a fast car, so you know, you just gotta wait to see how the cards play out, and hopefully you're there in the last 5 laps to be able to take a shootout and take a chance at winning it.
Yeah, I ain't a fan of that break in the middle of the race either, because it takes a lot of strategy away from everybody. I'm not a fan of that at all.
No, I mean, there was a couple races a few years ago where, you know, we were one of the last cars to pit with about 25 to go, and we restarted probably 21st or 22nd, and we had probably about 15 to 20 lap fresher tires than the rest of the field, and it really made a difference. I think I went from 21st up to 3rd there at the end of the race, and you know, unfortunately, Rowan Pennick ran out of gas in front of me, and you know, we slipped back, and I think we finished 9th or 10th. But you know, that was one of the last years that strategy really played a role in the outcome of the race, and you know, it's fun to do those things. We do it at you know, Stafford and Thompson, where they don't have to brake and you have live pit stops, and it makes a big difference into how your race is going to play out. So I really miss that aspect of it. I'm hoping that, one time we go back to it because, racing, you guys know, is very much a team sport, and, everybody likes to have their hand in the pot. So I like when, we have live pit stops and my guys get to go to work.
Yeah, especially, with all the guys and everything else, that's like their show-off races, loud. When you take that pit stop away from them, it lets the air out of their sails a little bit because they want to do good in front of everybody. The race, was going to be on TV. Everybody's there watching. You got all the people in the stands like that at the big track. All the cup guys are there and everything else. You want to show off then.
Yeah, absolutely for them. And, I'm lucky enough to have a lot of family members who are involved, helping me in the crew. But, it's hard enough to get people to go, but it's even harder to get people to show up when you know that the pressure's not on them to perform a live pit stop. So, it definitely lets some air out of the sails for the crew guys to, have a 5-minute break there and be able to take their time. So, like I said, I really look forward to the day when we can go back to having live pit stops there.
Eric, only 14 races on the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour for the 2014 season. How many races would you like to see on the Whelen Modified Tour?
Well, I think anywhere from 16 to 18 is a good number. But more than anything, I'd like to see a wider breadth of tracks, offered. What half our season is, kind of on Thompson and Stafford tracks, which I love racing at. But, there's certain drivers who are just so good at those two tracks, who have been around a while, that it's just so hard to contend with them. And, I mean, we've been fast there, and we've been able to beat a bunch of those guys. But, I miss the good old days where they were going to, 13 or 14 different tracks in the season. It really opens up the points. It allows different drivers to show different skills off. And, I would much rather, even if it was a 14-race schedule, I'd like to see us go to, 10 or 11 different tracks.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of other tracks in the East Coast that we can go to. I mean, like I said, over half the season is in Connecticut. And,
Absolutely, between Thompson, Stafford, and Waterford. So, I mean, you're talking 8 races right there that are just in one state.
Yeah, and then you got, just Riverhead, Loudon, and then a couple offsprings from there. I mean, that's
Bristol.
all. Right. And it's tough for everybody because, the Bristol, everybody likes going to Bristol. It's just you got to be careful at Bristol because yeah.
Bristol's a long haul, and it definitely, it's tough to get away from work for that long, and especially being in the middle of the week, it's tough to get guys to be able to go down there. But there's no race on the schedule like Bristol, so I'll take it on. We could race there on a Monday. It doesn't matter. I'd go down there any time of the week.
Yeah, everybody wants to go to Bristol. I mean, it is so hard to get crew guys because if you got a good crew guys and the guy that drives it. It's like when we go down, we leave Monday right after work, drive through the night, get down there, get to the track because you got to be the first thing Tuesday morning, and then barely do anything, but you got to be there to get the trailers inside, and then you're there Wednesday, and then Wednesday night you leave there and go straight through into Thursday. So it's tough for everybody because you're legitimately going to miss 3 days worth of work no matter what you do.
Yeah, and like I said, sometimes it's tough getting people to even go up to Stafford or Thompson for a Thursday or a Friday night show. But, for the most part, for speaking on behalf of my crew, we got a bunch of people we can call if some of our regulars can't go, and, we're always able to put together a full crew. But, I even miss the days of going down to Martinsville. That was one of my better tracks. That's where I raced in my first ever tour race down there. And, that was a fun track. I was kind of upset to see that one slip off the schedule. But, I understand the traveling problems that teams have. And, but there's a lot of tracks up in the Northeast that, we're capable of running either 1 or 2 shows at. It's just, it's kind of a letdown when you see the schedule come out and you got 4 races at one track and, 1 race at another track where, you think you could maybe do 2 races there and have 1 left at Stafford or Thompson. But, when it all comes down to it, it doesn't matter what the schedule says. I'm going to race where the schedule allows me to race.
Sure. Talking with Eric Goodale. Last question for you, Eric. Would you like to see Watkins Glen, or maybe someday maybe go back to Lime Rock? Or how about maybe, who knows, maybe down the road we'll see a road race at Thompson.
Yeah, I mean that was one of the coolest experiences of my life, to be honest with you. It was in oval racing, there's only so much you can do in one lap, and to throw down a really good lap. But when you're on the road course, there's about 30 to 40 different things that you could do different in any given lap, and things happen quickly there. It's a breath of fresh air, for a driver who's been racing oval his whole life. That it was really cool to go there and experience Lime Rock while it lasted. I would definitely want to go back, and I don't care which road course it is, but to go there and make some left and right turns again. That was something that I'll never forget, and hopefully we'll be able to do again.
Okay. Well, Eric, once again, congratulations to you and your race team for getting to Victory Lane this past Saturday night at the Riverhead Raceway. As we talked about it, the next stop for the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour will come up on Saturday, July the 12th for the New Hampshire 100. However, on July the 11th, they're going to have that All-Star race, which is a non-points event, and I know, Eric, a lot of people are talking about that.
Yeah, I mean, they'll be interested to see who's starting in that race and when they release who's going to be in it. But, from what it sounds like, it's going to be a pretty cool showdown. And I know there'll be a lot of good drivers in it. So it should be something to look forward to.
Absolutely. Well, Eric, thanks for spending some time. Once again, congratulations. We'll look forward to seeing you at New Hampshire Motor Speedway in a couple of weeks.
All right, thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Eric Goodale joining us tonight on this edition of Speedway Line Report Radio. And Ricky, looking at the point standings heading into New Hampshire Motor Speedway, Doug Colby with 204 points, Bobby Santos with 197, Justin Bonsignor 196, and rounding out, you got Teddy Christopher with 194, and then Woody Pitcap rounds out the top 5 with 184.
Yeah, it's going to be a pretty tight race, especially with the way they do the points now with 1 point, difference in between, and then only a 14 race schedule. So really ends up being a real tight race.
Absolutely. We'll take a commercial break, and when we come back, we'll get set for another driver who competes on the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour. He came home 14th this past Saturday night at the Riverhead Raceway. A couple weeks back at the Waterford Speed Bowl, he finished 12th, so we'll talk to him about that. We'll also talk to him about what's going on with his SK Modified as well. You're listening to Speedway Line Report Radio on WATR 1320 AM.
Nowhere else but Shaler Acura in Manchester. Visit Connecticut's first Acura dealer and find out why Shaler Acura is the state's only 14-time Acura Precision Team Dealer of Distinction Award winner. Awarded by Acura for outstanding sales and service. At Shaler, low-pressure courteous sales staff makes owning your certified pre-owned Acura easy. Plus, Shaler Acura offers extended service and work hours Monday through Thursday until 8 p.m. and Saturdays until 4 p.m. for your convenience. And now get the same award-winning service on any make or model. Visit their state-of-the-art modern facility today, just minutes from Hartford. Take exit 60 off I-84, turn right at the end of the exit, go 2 miles on the left, or check out their great selection of new or pre-owned vehicles online at ShalerAcura.com, or reach them by calling 860-647-7077.
I haven't called me yet.
Nowhere else but Shaler Acura, Manchester.
Because I just know how long I'm going to take to have to actually wait for him to answer the phone and stuff like that. So I always do it while you guys are talking.
Sure, mics are all up.
EMS workwear, team spirit,
Well, yeah.
or promotional.
Because I only have to leave yours up during that time.
Now, what was it on in here?
It was the select pod that actually brings the audio from the newsroom into here.
Gotcha. But I gave you enough time. We fudged it. We got through it.
Yeah.
In addition,
Right.
We got through it. I covered.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the only thing, because my only thing was that I had to go and get
I thought Rick was going to
Eric
say,
on the phone.
like, great.
I know, he was laying to pounce on me.
Nice.
I know, you didn't mention anything, I appreciate that.
We went to say it, and all of a sudden I hear footsteps coming. I'm like, that's not going good.
That's 860-747-9800.
Well, I knew right away when I went and it wasn't there.
333
Yeah.
East Street in Plainville. That's 333 East Street, Plainville
footsteps
for
coming
Embroidery
downstairs. I'm like,
Works.
oh, he's
Visit
coming
them
back in here.
online at embroideryworksct.com. Welcome back to the Speedway Line Report, presented to you by Shaler Acura of Manchester.
Your car, your choice, the Auto Body Association of Connecticut.
Welcome back, everyone. Gary Danko right alongside Rocket Rick Rotundo. Tom Graves right across, pushing the buttons and the knobs when everything is working. And, of course, Robert Baggett, the YouTube guy, is on hand. And once again, if you weren't able to go out to Stafford Motor Speedway this past Friday night, great action in all of their divisions, but especially the SK Modifieds with Mike Joy and Jack Root Jr. calling the action. Make sure you check out the YouTube guys' work. So pretty fantastic racing there. And getting back to that action Friday night with the SK Modifieds. I mean, Ryan Priest and TC, some great racing.
Yeah, no, they definitely had a battle going back and forth. Passed lead several times. I don't know how many times it was, but I think sometimes it was twice a lap. They were getting it pretty good, and there was some Nerf bars banging, some little sparks in the air, and everything else. So that was some hard racing, but it was clean, hard racing. Where at the end of the thing, they were both happy about it, and it is what it was.
So check out all the action from the YouTube guy, Robert Baggett. Also, the Valente Modified Racing Series, they were in action this past Friday night over at the Lee USA Speedway. When it was all said and done, Richard Savory of Canton, Mass. held off Justin Bonsignor for the victory. Todd Zegedy of Ridgefield, who came into the event with the points lead, was coming off his first victory of the season last week at Stafford Motor Speedway, had a season worst 12th place finish. Valente Modified Racing Series officials did not announce any updated point standings following the event. Our next guest, he's all set to go. Unfortunately, he could not be with us last Monday night, but he is all set to go from Wilbraham, Massachusetts. He runs on the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour. Glen Reen now joins us. Glenn, good evening. How are you?
Good, you?
I'm doing very well. Glad you could join us for this week's edition of Speedway Line Report Radio. Hope everything is okay.
Yeah, I apologize. Last week, my little brother had his, as he calls it, his first big one, and he broke his finger, and we were running around with EMTs trying to make sure he was all right. He said his head hurt. So we were at Stafford Motor Speedway last Monday, and he's not there this week because the car is in pieces.
Gotcha. But so let's go back a couple weeks back. You on the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour with car number 8. You came home with a 12th place finish. We'll start there.
Yeah, Waterford was actually my first time ever going there. I actually really like the track. It's very fun. It reminds me a lot of turns 3 and 4 at Stafford with just straighter, smaller straightaways. Fun 2-groove track. You can get, you can actually use the outside. But definitely, I was happy with our results. Obviously, you wanted more, but for your first time ever there, I will take a 12th place.
And Glenn, what type of chassis do you run on the tour?
I run Mark Cypher's as a 2008 Troyer. It's my actually first time in a Troyer car, and so far so good. They are a lot tougher than the CDs, but I feel like the CD turns a little better, so it's kind of a toss-up between the two. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I know what you mean. And the CD car, that's what you race in the SKs?
Correct. That's my own personal car. Actually, that car has won in the SK Lights and the Tour, so if I win in the SK, that'll be the first car and driver to win all 3 divisions, I believe.
There you go. And what type of motor do you have on the tour?
The Tour is the Bob Bruno, is my motor, and then for Riverhead and Waterford and Monadnock, we're running the car owner's motor, which is a Big Sal motor. SK is actually, believe it or not, it's home built. Ralph Ridgway, the legend himself, who got inducted into the Drag Race Hall of Fame a few years back, is my uncle, and he and I built that motor together.
Well, that was supposed to be the whole deal about the spec motors, where you can actually do that and be competitive now.
Correct. Yeah, we do get help from Rads. Donnie at Rads is awesome. He does all the machine work for us. It's so simple because it's in our backyard, but we do all the assembly. But we obviously couldn't do it without the help of Rads on the machine.
And what are some of the sponsors that you have?
On the SK car is Pioneer Valley Wheel Repair. I got to thank them. A huge thanks to massgunpermit.com, techedproducts.com, and Napa of Springfield. And then on the tour car, I cannot thank my car owner enough. He owns Cypher Construction, and as well as Reflux Energy. They put up solar panels everywhere. And a good friend of his is Baja Construction, has been helping us out a lot. North One Steakhouse, who is a Riverhead regular, and Panorama Glass.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to see you're running well on the tour, and you're working at that SK. Ain't had too good luck in the SK this year so far.
The problem with the SK is I'm funding that one myself. The sponsors we have they can only do what they can do, and when we get a big wreck like we had, unfortunately, the second race out, it's a lot of money out of my pocket in order to get back. So we're doing our best. We're trying to make it back for this Friday. I don't know what we're going to get out of it yet. It's still too early to tell, but we'll definitely be back after Loudon.
Yeah, because this is the big race coming up this Friday.
Yeah, I really don't want to miss it, but I don't know what we're going to have.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of cars there this week.
I know. Go figure, my rent is due this week, so. Shop for no racing.
They're paying for winning heat races this week.
I heard that last week. What did they say? $200?
$250 to win the heat race.
Okay, yeah, and then it was, 100 per second, I believe?
I think it was 150 and then 100 or something. I think top 3 positions get paid.
So the action will be hot and heavy at Stafford Motor Speedway Friday night in the SKs.
I don't want to be in Teddy's heat race because you know he wants to win it.
Everyone's going to want to win that. That, honestly, my prediction for that race is going to be whoever starts last and pulls down pit road and goes one lap down is going to win it.
Glenn, let's go back to 2011. You won on the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour event at Thompson Speedway during the World Series race at Thompson. Of course, that was the year that Ron Silk won the championship, and what a night that was.
Yeah, that was a godsend right there. Like we said, we ran real well at Stafford, and we kind of wanted to keep the momentum going because that's obviously huge in racing. So we just kept rolling it and decided, let's just run the last race. Screw it. We got nothing to lose, and we got everything to gain. So we started, and we qualified really bad. And I was all down. I said, guys, I don't know. I feel bad. I'm letting you down. And they said, just go out there and drive it tomorrow. Let's go have some fun. It's the last race of the year. Let's just have fun with it. The strategy, we took tires and kind of just hung out on the road and then made a run for it at the end. And before you know it, we were leading the race. And I was like, my whole goal was all I want to do was lead one lap on the Whelen Modified Tour. Like, so excited. And all of a sudden I led one and then I went 2 and all of a sudden it was 5 and 10. I'm like, wow, I might actually have a chance to win this thing.
Yeah, you certainly did. You got the car to victory lane, and what an evening that was at Thompson. Ricky, you remember it well?
Unfortunately, I remember it a little bit too well, but yeah, we were there. We were racing.
Right, with Eric.
Yep, we ended up buried in the fence.
Correct. Up in turn 2.
Yeah. Yeah, it was just...
Hey, that was an eye-opener for me because the fact that I think a lot of people don't know that you either don't think I can drive or think I'm bad equipment or, I don't know, but we were in no equipment there. I mean, literally the motor, Bob Bruno said, do not run that motor. And we said, well, we got nothing to lose and everything to gain. If it blows up, it blows up. And it had 1,800 laps. You're supposed to rebuild around 1,500. And it was just kind of a wing and a prayer, basically. And it's not like it was an easy race to win. I mean, 3 green, white checkers everyone was taking a shot at me, and somehow we made it through.
Yeah, that was a tough race, and you did one of the smartest things there because it was becoming such a wreck fest that in the upper groove is the groove to be in, and people were starting there, but the guys that were down low were pushing them all the way up into the fence, and then they were wrecking, and then now you're leading, and what do? I'll start first, and I'll make my own way out of turn number 1.
That's what I watched, and, it's nothing against everybody. Obviously, that's how it works, but I'm watching the first one, and the guy on the inside pushed the guy on the outside all the way to the wall. So I actually passed for the lead back under green and decided, well, he can either push me to the wall or I can push him to the wall, so I'm going to choose push him,
Yeah, it was funny because we were all hot, but I mean,
that's the flying around the place, and that was probably unheard of what we should be doing, but I decided to see if I could make it work, and I didn't lean on him too hard. I just leaned on him a little bit, but think it worked out.
Yeah, no, like I said, we were a little hot, but we were still watching the race, and then we see the restart, and he dropped to the bottom. I said, he's making sure he makes it through 1 and 2.
That's exactly what I was doing.
We're-
I think the first start wasn't that bad. I cleared coming out of 2, and then I looked in the mirror as soon as my spotter said, clear back, or clear behind you, and he's like, you got 2 cars, everything's in front of you. And then I look in the mirror, and I look in the mirror the second Teddy clips the wheel with the 51 and the 66. And I was like, wow, now I really got a shot to win this thing, because, you got Ted will wreck you. I love Ted to death, but I'm pretty sure he would wreck me for a win.
203-757-1320. You're listening to the Speedway Line Report Radio on WATR 1320 AM. We're also streaming online at WATR.com and SpeedwayLineReport.com. Our second guest of the evening, Wilbraham, Massachusetts driver Glen Reen, just talking about his victory on the NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour back in 2011 over at Thompson, where him and the crew definitely celebrated after that night, no question about it. A win, well deserved, but of course now running on the NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour, and we talked a little bit about Waterford a few weeks ago where you finished 12th. How about this past weekend over at the Riverhead Raceway? Started 25th, you came home 14th.
Yeah, Riverhead is really tough. If you don't run there on a pretty regular basis, it's an extremely hard track to learn and keep in your head, I'm going to call it. Very inviting to want to overdrive the corners, but you really have to back your entry up, and that's what we fought all through practice, and finally got it in my head, probably lap 80 in the race. So that's why qualifying didn't really go that well. It's extremely technical. In fact, you're on the gas for 1 second down the straightaway. You feel like you want to keep going because you just came from Waterford, which is still a short straightaway, but you're on the gas for longer than you think. And you show up here, and if you're fast, you're on the gas for 1 second, and that's good. But 14th overall is not a bad day, especially when, unfortunately, we got a penalty right after qualifying for putting a spring rubber in the right front. Apparently, you're not allowed to start the race with a spring rubber, but you can pit and then put a spring rubber in. So I don't really understand that rule, but whatever it is, what it is. We started 30th and made our way up to 14th. Kind of got trapped a lap down when I got spun by the 71 and was sitting there, and then the pace car came around and the push truck took a little too long to get to us and got trapped 1 lap down and never was able to get that back at the end of the race because we had a long green flag run. But other than that, I'm happy. 14th, she's in one piece, needs a bumper. That's a pretty good day at Riverhead, if you ask me.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a good day, and it's kind of fun. I'm just spinning off a little bit what you were saying there with the drivers and stuff. It's like, when you're crewing with the drivers and stuff like that, you're, the driver's on track, you're like, hey, you're going to that line round. The driver's like, I know. Well, why'd you do it? I'm not sure.
It looks so inviting. I mean, you got big banking, you got tons of braking. You're like, oh, just reel in here real good, and then next thing you know, you're up in the third groove and everyone's underneath you. You're like, oh, that's why.
Yeah, it's just one of the things that ends up being funny every once in a while. You get that little bit of brain fade where, oh, maybe I can do a little bit of this, and the crews, the spotter's like, hey, you got to go easy over there, and the driver's like, yeah, I know.
Exactly. Yeah, you don't have to tell me. I already figured it out.
Okay, Glenn, the next stop for the NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour comes up in a few weeks, July 12th, over at the New Hampshire Motor Speedway. Your thoughts of heading there?
I love Loudon. My first favorite track is Bristol. My second is Loudon. Loudon is so much fun. We, unfortunately, have never had any good luck there, so I'm hoping to break that streak this year. We've always run well. 2009, we had a couple top 5 runs, and with like a couple to go, somebody wrecked in 3 and 4, and we got taken out of another top 5. It's just, it's our Talladega. I mean, everybody's close, so, even if somebody makes a mistake, just a little one, everybody pays for it. So hopefully we can time trial well. I'm so happy to be back with my crew chief, Jimmy Fuller, and we're definitely meshing together. This is his first time really working on a Troyer, so it's taken a couple races for him to figure it out and to figure out what I want out of the car. And I think after Riverhead we got it because the car was great. I mean, it was really good. We just didn't get to show it due to the 1 lap down. I mean, at the end of the race I was fighting for 9th, but obviously it doesn't matter if you're a lap down or not.
What's it like working with Jimmy, Glenn?
It's awesome. I mean, I started with him. He took me under his wing in SK Lights in 06, 07, and after that I jumped to the tour, and he was busy, so he said we couldn't really do much. But 09, he cleared the schedule, and I ran full time on the tour with him, and we did real well. You know, unfortunately, we had a couple of runs where we should have had a win, but we had some bad luck. We ran out of fuel once, passing for second with 2 to go, and closing the gap on Leah, and ran out of fuel. So that was a tough one. Ran out of fuel at Bristol was the other one, and I think we moved up 14 spots at about halfway mark. I mean, we were rocking there. But, you know, just bad luck. So I'm hoping to kick all out this year. I got a lot of good feelings. We got a great crew who I actually put together on the internet on Stafford's website. I decided to put up a looking for crew members, and everybody came through there, and we've all been having a blast. And I'm just really excited for Loudon.
Yeah, Jimmy Fuller, he's a great guy, smart, very knowledgeable, and, you know, like you said, he's just playing around the Troyer car now because I know he's been dealing with the CD cars for decades.
Correct, and that's what he said. I mean, you know, he's like, obviously they're different, and same thing. You know, there's things he likes and there's things he doesn't like, and, you know, it's going to be that way with anything, but now he's figured out what I like. Well, he knows what I liked in the car, but he's figured out how to get it in the Troyer car for the last 2 races, and now we kind of have a game plan of where we want to head for Loudon, so to see what we can do in qualifying. The motor we're going to run up there is actually John Blewett's motor, and that was the first Chevy back in before Newman showed up that won both Loudons in the same year, so I'm excited to see what it's going to do. I'm curious to see what it's going to do against some spec motors that NASCAR's got, but I guess time will tell.
Exactly. A couple more minutes with Glen Reen, who runs on the NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour. He also competes in an SK Modified over at Stafford Motor Speedway. And Glenn, speaking of Stafford Motor Speedway, you said last Monday night, of course, they run the Wild Thing karts over there, and your brother actually busted up his finger there. What division does he run in at Stafford in the Wild Thing karts? And talk about the talent that has come from that Monday night program that Stafford provides.
It's an awesome program. Wade pours his heart and soul in that place, and it's great. And I'm glad to see a lot of kids, and you're already starting to see them, you know, working their way up to the SK Lights, to the Dare Stocks, and to the Legend cars, and they're winning races left and right. And it's a great division, very safe. JP only broke, that's my little brother, JP. He only broke his finger because he didn't let go of the wheel quick enough. And I told him, if you're going to get in a wreck, just let go of the wheel. And he kind of tried to drive it out, I'm going to guess Keith Rocco style, and ended up busting his finger. So that was the senior outlaws this year. Last year was junior outlaws, and that was his first time ever driving anything. So he likes it a lot, and he's pretty excited. But unfortunately, we could not get the car back in time for this Monday.
Yeah, they run a good program up there, and it's just I'm putting a couple of little shout out because today's actually the first day there's going to be another Monahan racing because Sean's son is now racing up at Stafford Speedway. He got the kart from Eric.
Okay.
And George Hines gave him a fire suit and stuff that, his kid, because he's in the SK Lights now,
right,
he grew out of. So, George get him a fire suit and some stuff to,
right,
help the
good
kid
deal.
Start driving.
That's all good.
George is a great guy. I actually shook down his son's modified for him, but then he had to go and beat me. I think I ran a 19.901, and his son opted. I ran a 19.893, and I was like, really? Good for you to beat me, huh?
Yeah, they're good people.
And the talent that just has come out of that Monday night program, and Dylan Kopech comes to mind, Mike Christopher Jr., who had a lot of success there, and now racing Legends. I think he just picked up his 8th or 9th win in the Legends Series. Of course, it was announced. I actually found out Friday night. I was out to dinner with my wife, and where the car is coming from, I believe this is a car that Al Hankey owned, who owns Mohawk Northeast, and that he's going to, I believe, go to Waterford Thursday night, get some seat time in it. Now, I don't know if Mike and the family bought the race car, or if Al is letting them use the car, but it's a Troyer car. I believe it's only got like 2 races on it, and I can't remember the driver that ran it back a few years ago as an SK Light. So just congratulations all the way around to Mike Christopher Jr. and his dad and everybody involved with that team, doing well in the Legends, and now he's going to get a chance to run an SK Light for 2015.
Yeah, no, that's great to hear. I remember seeing that car a couple years back, like you said. It was an absolutely gorgeous car. That is actually the car that I want to make. I want an all-white on white on white car like that one.
Exactly, that's exactly what that is. And Glenn, do you remember who actually drove that car in 2 races?
I do not, unfortunately. I know he came out of the lot of things as well, and they gave him a handful of races, but obviously money is a factor, so I don't know exactly what happened, but I believe he did pretty well.
Okay. Well, Glenn, I want to thank you for spending some time. Ricky, final questions for Glenn?
I didn't have a question for you. I was just going to touch on you were talking about all the guys that came out of the Monday night thing.
Right.
I think over the next 10 years, you're going to see a whole lot more common names that you know coming out of that Wild Thing carts with all the, the drivers and stuff that are in it right now.
Right.
When you look at it, like you said, Dylan Kopak, Mike Christopher, George Hines' son, Ronnie Williams came out of there. It's a great division, gives you a lot of seat time, pretty cheap, unless you buy it up every week, and even that, it's still pretty cheap. Last year, my little brother, we didn't rebuild the motor, and we ran all year, 1 set of tires, and he had a blast, and he learned a ton, and he's getting his license next year, so on top of everything, I think that'll help him on the road. If you get in a panic situation, he knows to get off the brakes to make the car turn. He knows how to correct it. So on top of everything, it's also a great teacher for the streets,
Right. Well, Glenn, thank you again for being a part of the show. It's always great to have you on Speedway Line Report Radio. Good luck in the remainder of the 2014 season on the NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour, along with your SK program over at Stafford Motor Speedway. I'll look forward to catching up with you at New Hampshire Motor Speedway coming up in a few weeks. Okay, that's fine with me. Glenn, thank you. Glenn Reen joining us tonight on this edition of Speedway Line Report Radio. A couple of minutes before we go to national news. And hey, don't forget, this is going to be the 2nd annual Glen Riley Memorial Race coming up this coming weekend over at the Silver City Quarter Midget Club. There's going to be a lot of things going on over there, so make sure you check out their website. Go to www.silvercityquartermidgets.com to find out all of the great action that's going to take place over at the Silver City Quarter Midget Club in Meriden, Connecticut. Once again, it is the 2nd annual Glen Riley Memorial Race. The best way to lead them to what's going on, Ricky, is just check out www.silvercityquartermidgets.com to find out all of what's happening with the 2nd annual Glen Riley Memorial Race over at the Silver City Quarter Midget Club. And speaking of the Silver City Quarter Midget Club, look at all the talent that's come out of over the years over there, Ricky.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, the amount of kids and stuff that go racing and come out of these little things that you don't really know about, it's crazy.
Exactly right. I mean, Eric Byrne, you turned the wrenches for Eric Byrne in the number 66 car. He came from there. James Savali, Rene Dupree, Ron Uhas Jr. The list goes on. Tyler Chadwick, I believe, raced over there as well. Of course, Joey Logano, we all know the story there. And the list just goes on and on of drivers that have come out of the Silver City Quarter Midget Club and have gone on to do well. Tony Membrino Jr.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a ton of drivers that have gone through there. And what that has done is opened up, places for like Monday night at Stafford. It's just that many more kids that you just can't have all these kids at one racetrack.
Correct.
It's just too many, and they're not going to finish good, and they're going to be disappointed and things like that. So you have to give them more of a bigger variety, and that's what they try to do on like Monday nights, where they start them in this very low class, where if the kid's not doing good, they try to make it equal for everybody. They'll turn one kid's card up a little bit, just to give them the confidence, and that's what it's about. In that first division, it's just to build the confidence in the kid to see if that's what they want to do.
Exactly. I believe Zach Askler also came from the Silver City Quarter Midget Club, and there again, the list goes on and on and on, just like with the Wild Thing carts. A lot of young talent work their way up into divisions now, racing, in short track racing, and have done very well. So once again, national news is about a minute away. Then we're going to come back. We'll reset everything for you. And our next guest, actually will be our 3rd guest of the evening. He runs in a late model division over at Waterford Speed Bowl, Jason Palmer. He'll talk to us about his 2014 season. He does have 2 victories. maybe could have had more. We'll find out from Jason coming up after national news. So don't go anywhere. You're listening to Speedway Line Report Radio on WATR 1320 AM. We're also streaming online at WATR.com, and you can also go to SpeedwayLineReport.com, where all shows are archived. National news is next.
Your radio station for news, talk, and entertainment. 1320 AM WATR Waterbury.
Fox News Radio, I'm Jane Metzler. The president announcing...
Why don't you slide that chair over there and sit down? You're killing me over here. I see you squatting down, sitting down, squatting down, sitting down. I'm like, there's a chair right there, there's a chair right there.
You want a chair?
Well, I understand that, but isn't it easier to get up from a chair than the ground?
McDonald's Foundation comes at a tough time with over 50 VA centers under investigation. The chair of the House Veterans Affairs Committee says the department is under a specter of corruption. And a possible problem for McDonald's at Senate confirmation time. Many P&G shareholders complaining he was holding the company back and not doing enough to cut costs. Jane? Thanks, Jill. After House Speaker John Boehner said there would be no legislative action on immigration reform this year, the president taking what action he can on his own. Fox Radio's Jessica Rosenthal has the latest live.
As part of a speech on immigration reform today, President Obama called the flow of Central American families into Texas a humanitarian crisis.
Yeah, I can't remember who drove that car.
Like I said, I'm not saying it wasn't Chase Dowling, because like I said, he could fall into that category there, you know, where it could be or might not be. Well, like I said, I thought he just turned 15 last year.
Vice President Biden has met with some Central American leaders, and Secretary of State John Kerry will meet with some of those leaders tomorrow. The Border Patrol in Texas is so overwhelmed, it's sending some migrants to California to be processed. President Obama says most of them will be sent back home, Jane.
Thanks, Jessica. A court decision watched by energy and environmental groups. Fox Radio's Tanya J. Powers has the latest live.
The New York State Court of Appeals affirmed the rights of cities and towns to ban hydraulic fracturing or fracking in their borders. The New York cases have been watched closely to see if drillers would be allowed to tap into the state's piece of the Marcellus Shale Formation. Jane?
Fox News Radio, fair and balanced.
Do you live with stress? If you have nervousness or common everyday anxiety, we're looking for you. Because right now we're sending risk-free supplies of a fast-acting supplement to listeners of this station. You heard right. Every listener who calls right now will learn how to get a risk-free bottle of Stress Block, a naturally derived formula that promotes feelings of calmness, alertness, and focus in just moments. Supplies for this risk-free offer are limited, so don't wait. Just call 1-800-553-1696. Stress Block is a fast-acting, non-prescription formula to support relaxation without causing drowsiness. Your nervousness is guaranteed to begin fading like magic in just minutes. This special risk-free offer is for listeners of this station, but it won't last. Call us now for this exclusive Stress Block risk-free offer. Just call 1-800-553-1696. That's 1-800-553-1696. Call 1-800-553-1696.
Big story, strong winds collapsing a building in eastern Iowa, one man dead, tornado watches in effect in several Midwestern states. The U.S. sending 200 more troops to Iraq to help secure our facilities there and provide more protection to the Baghdad airport. Secretary of State John Kerry calling it devastating. The discovery of the bodies of 3 Israeli teens abducted 2 weeks ago in the West Bank. One of those teens, a U.S. citizen, all were seminary students. Israel blaming Hamas and promises to retaliate. And Obamacare ruling against the administration in the nation's highest court.
The court's final opinion of the term was among its most anticipated.
To paraphrase President Obama, what we found out today from the Supreme Court is that religious liberty is the law.
Casey Maddox is an attorney for Conestoga Wood, the cabinet maker successfully winning a challenge to the healthcare law's contraception mandate. A narrow 5-4 ruling concludes closely held companies can opt out of providing birth controlling health plans offered to employees if there is religious objection.
Would be the same as my boss saying to me, you can spend your paycheck on X, but not on Y.
NARAL pro-choice president Elise Hogue says her organization will press Congress for a fix to ensure all women have access to contraception options.
Fox Radio's Jared Halpern.
Hope Gary knows it's 30 seconds.
Huh?
Hope Gary knows it's 30 seconds.
Yeah, I know.
Outdoors is in.
The one day I go to use the water cooler, she's down.
It is?
Yeah.
Is something not plugged in or something?
Oh, lights are on.
Altidore hasn't played in the last 2 matches due to a hamstring injury.
15 seconds!
The U.S.-Belgium
Gary!
4 p.m. Eastern Tuesday. I'm
There he
Jim
is.
Metzler, Fox News Radio.
Welcome back to the Speedway Line Report, presented to you by Shaler Acura of Manchester.
Your car, your choice, the Auto Body Association of Connecticut.
Welcome back, everyone. Gary Danko here in our Waterbury studio at WATR 1320 AM, right alongside Rocket Rick Rotundo from R&R Fabrication. He's also the crew chief on Eric Burns, number 66 SK Modified, that competes over at the Stafford Motor Speedway. And he's also calling the shots on the Valente Modified Racing Series in a limited schedule for driver Timmy Salamito. Earlier tonight, we heard from NASCAR Wheel Modified Tour driver Eric Goodale. We heard from Glen Reen. In just a couple of minutes, we're going to talk to a driver that competes at the Waterford Speed Bowl in the late model division, Jason Palmer. He has 2 victories to his credit. I know Jason and his dad Jags are looking for more, and we still got plenty of racing season left to go over at the Waterford Speed Bowl. This show is also being brought to you by J.M. Montesanto Auto Body Works, Specialists in Auto Collision. All of their work is guaranteed. They're located at 390 Lombard Street in New Haven, Connecticut. Give them a call, 203-865-1389. J.M. Montesanto Auto Body Works. Leave the work to them. And I've seen their work, Ricky, and let me tell you, the work is impeccable. They are specialists in auto collision. All work guaranteed. They've been around for many, many, many years. John's father actually used to race at the West Haven Speedway and many racetracks all over. And of course, John is doing some racing in an SK Modified. He used to compete over at Stafford Motor Speedway, then shifted gears, went over to the Waterford Speed Bowl. And I believe I talked to John last week, late last week, and they were getting set to go over to the Waterford Speed Bowl. It would be the first time that they would be racing in 2014. And he finished where? He would finish down in the 19th position. So I'll find out from John during the work exactly what happened to them over at the Waterford Speed Bowl. But once again, his primary job is J.M. Montesanto Auto Body Works. Once again, specialists in auto collision, 390 Lombard Street in New Haven, Connecticut. And don't forget about our good friend, Ricky Rotundo, Jim Majorana from Jim's Lawn Care Service. Maintenance and lawn care, that's his specialty. And of course, his other specialty is, when he's over at the Waterford Speed Bowl, you know, Jim knows all the drivers and crew members, and most of them, from what I understand, love seeing Jim when he comes around.
Oh yeah, when they see Jim, they're like, oh, there's Jim.
There's that guy, Jim. He advertises on Speedway Line Report Radio, and he's a big fan of auto racing. And he does a great job with his business, Jim's Lawn Care Service out of Cheshire, Connecticut. Give them a call today, 203-272-2054. 203-272-2054 for Jim's Lawn Care Service out of Cheshire, Connecticut. And don't forget our good folks right down the road, Ricky, the Grotto Restaurant, serving fine Italian food, whether it's eat-in or takeout. They are closed Sunday and Monday. It is the Grotto Restaurant. So we're all set for our third guest of the evening. Ran legend cars for a handful of years, did very well, picked up championships and many, many wins in legend cars in the last couple of seasons. He's been running a late model over at the Waterford Speed Bowl. He's got 2 victories to his credit. They're digging for more. Jason Palmer now joins us. Jason, welcome into the show and good evening.
Good evening, Gary. Good evening, Ricky. How you guys doing?
We're doing well tonight. We're just talking auto racing. We talked to Glen Reen. We talked to Eric Goodale. And now we're all set to talk to you. I guess we can start off the conversation this past Saturday night over at the Waterford Speed Bowl with your late model number 17 car.
Yeah, we had a good car. I mean, we got tore up the week before. We got it all straightened out, and it wasn't the fastest on the watch, but I think it was one of the more consistent cars on the long run, and it just looked didn't go our way.
And this, when you said the luck didn't go your way, describe that.
Oh, it was just a long race. We were last. The trucks put on a good show, but just one wreck after the other. Everyone trying to go 3 wide, and by the time the late models got out there, it was almost 11:30, and I think, with the curfew approaching, they kind of tried to rush the show along a little bit. And, Keith took a pretty hard hit. That was a little delay of time, too, and just, we had a restart there. I thought we had the race. I thought we had the race won. But I guess it was a caution down in 1. And they called it back, and then the next start I kind of anticipated it, got a good jump, tried to give it back to Bruce, and no good. So we tried the third time, they put a single file, and went to go green, and I ended up getting a right front flat.
We're talking with Jason Palmer, competes over at the Waterford Speedboat in the late model division. Vin Esposito would pick up the victory. Bruce Thomas Jr. Was second. Jim Banfield would finish third. Chris Garside was fourth, and rounding out the top 5 was Anthony Ryan Jr. Back on with Jason. Jason, what does that track get like? Because sometimes, depending where you guys are in the order, sometimes you guys, I know in the past, when I was announcing down there, sometimes you guys would maybe like race, there was still some sunlight out, but what's the story now? You guys racing more in the nighttime, and that track gets very, very cold at night.
Definitely. I mean, the track kind of varies too during the season, depending on which way the wind's coming off the ocean. And earlier in the year, when it's real cold out, 50-degree days, the track doesn't really change too much at night. But as the summer starts to roll in, the track during the day is greasy, and then as the sun goes down, it gains grip, and then as the dew rolls in off the water, it starts to free up. And I mean, it's a time game. You got to kind of play it. You got to know if the dew's on the windshield, you almost got to really tighten the car up just to keep the thing from getting free on you.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest things down there when we raced at Waterford. It was like you don't touch the car until it's about 5 or 10 minutes before you go out, because you just don't know what it's going to be like, how much humidity is in the air. If you, just like you said, is there dew on the windshield now? There's just a lot of different things playing to the factor down there to guess it right.
Exactly.
And go ahead.
The biggest thing is definitely the dew. I mean, the temperature, the sun goes down, and you're one of the earlier features. You got a good shot at the car being pretty good on the long run, but as soon as that dew comes in, and especially if it's going to get cooler at night, it's just the track frees up a ton.
And I know, Jason, you and your dad and your crew, you guys put in a lot of hard work, like all teams do. But I know earlier in the season, your car took a big hit, and you guys weren't at the racetrack for a couple of weeks. What is that like for a race car driver, knowing that the car's got to get fixed, you're doing everything you can, and that you have to sit out a week or two?
Well, it basically just came down to the fact that I work a lot of hours at work. We're really busy. I mean, it's fortunate that we're as busy as we are. And, my position is I'm a supervisor, and kind of I like to stay with my guys as long as I can. So when I'm working 60-something hours a week, and, racing sometimes comes second to that. And I'd say that, and I know I can't really run for points this year because my sister's getting married in a few more weeks. So I knew I'd be out a couple weeks, and Jeff Rockley asked me to go to lead with him and give him a hand up there, and one thing to the next, I said, you know what, I don't mind missing a couple races. So we took our time, got the car back together. I think we got it back better than it was before the wreck. And, I mean, that's it. Racing's about having fun. I mean, it's nice to chase points. It's nice to get that drive in you that you got to go there every week, and you got to, you want to be ahead of everyone in points and want to compete for a championship. But in my circumstance, I can't really compete for a championship this year. So it's nice, be able to take a week or two off, fix the car right, not wear myself out.
Right. And like you said, your primary job, that's your bread and butter, and of course, you work for Pete Rapocchio, who owns Sign Pro.
The place is doing real well. I mean, it's just expanding. I mean, it's incredible how much it's grown in the last 2 years since I've been there. And it's reassuring to know you can go to work every day and work 60 hours a week, and we're constantly gaining more work and national accounts and stuff along those lines.
Yeah, well, Sign Pro, they're opening up that huge building over there now. They're moving over to there, so I mean.
Well, about 30, I want to say it's 36,000 square foot right inside 84, right by the rest area. That's going to be, it's going to be a lot nicer than where we're at. I mean, we make do what we got, but it's going to be a lot more efficient when we can actually work and have room to work.
We're talking with Jason Palmer, who runs a late model over at the Waterford Speed Bowl. Phone lines are open, 203-757-1320. We're streaming online at WATR.com. We're also streaming online at speedwaylinereport.com, where we do archive all of our shows. Back on with Jason. So what's the game plan during the week here as you prepare for your next race, Jason?
Well, the next race is that mid-season 300 at Waterford, so just 50 laps. You know, car runs a lot hotter, 50 laps, brakes go through a lot more. It's also a time trial race, so you want to have everything perfect, try and get a pole award. So, I mean, it's just, after coming off, you know, we wrecked the week before last, and we got the right front back under it. Just, we made a lot of adjustments at the track, hit the car, double check everything, make sure everything's all right, and you know, take good notes on what we got.
Yeah, and as I mentioned, Vin Esposito brought his car to the winner's circle. How would you describe the late model division? Now, granted, you know, 13 to 14 race cars, but from what I understand, what I've seen on, you know, Sid's View, what I saw there back a few weeks ago in the NASCAR Wheel Modified Tour was there on that weekend. I mean, all the local divisions there, SKs, late models, the mini stocks and strictlies, all put on great shows, and I know your division, the late models, put on a good show that particular night.
Yeah, I mean, it's racing. I mean, our job out there as racers is to have a good time, be safe, and put on a good show for the fans, you know, along with winning. But, I mean, that's, without fans and sponsors and everything out there, racing wouldn't exist. I mean, it'd be people with no money, not that racers all have money, but it'd be people with no money just trying to, you know, race in front of nobody. So it's, you got fans there, you got to keep them in the stands, you want to put on a good show. You don't want to throw away equipment and you know, wreck cars. On the other hand, you want to race hard and, you know, give the fans what they pay for.
Sure.
Who builds your chassis for the late model?
San Romano with Magnus Transmission built that car in, I want to say 2001 or 2002 for Ronnie Uhas. And that thing's, it's got a Port City clip. They're out of Michigan. But, I mean, basically now I'd say it's more of a Palmer special.
And whose motor do you got in there?
It's got an RPM Rick Paya. It's the ACT car is required to run a steel motor. And I go snowmobiling up in northern Vermont, and he was just the easiest guy for me to go to.
And what? There you go. He's giving me a shout in.
yeah, that's right.
What are some of the sponsors you got?
Sign Pro, also my employer, Manafort Brothers, CWPM, Tangus Tire, Euclides Tree Service, or Christmas trees. I always mess that one up. I mean, just my father, my mother, my girlfriend, the crew guys, Keith, everyone that gives me a hand on this thing.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, it's like...
I can't forget about Waddell, come on.
Yeah, Sean.
Oh, right,
Yeah.
exactly. Got to give a shout out to Waddell.
But I mean, you know, it's just like you said, though, if you ain't having fun, then you ain't racing. It's just so hard if you're not having fun racing.
Exactly. I mean, in my situation this year, with as much work as we have at work, and just, you know, you don't want to be on the shop till 2 in the morning and then try and get to go to work at 6. It's, you know, 4 hours of sleep turns into a pretty miserable life. Nothing's happened this year, not going for points. It's nice. I think it's the first time in my life I haven't ran for points, so it's kind of nice to be able to take an extra couple days, take a weekend off, and, you know, get the car done right and not kill myself.
Now, Jason, I mentioned you had a lot of success when you ran legend cars. Now, in the late models for the last couple of seasons, did you ever race quarter midgets or karts or anything before legends?
I drove. Started off the legends, and I was a little rough on the edges in the beginning, but we got the hang of that.
Yeah, you certainly did.
And then as time went on, we got better nose, and now the last year we raced the legends, we were pretty much dominant. We lost the fun. I mean, it was we go out there and say, okay, you're going to blow the motor, wreck, or win the race. I mean, we had 3 options. There was no second place. There was nothing else. Those gave me back the challenge where, you know, you got to learn the car, you got to learn how to drive the car. We're not as good as some, but we're trying to get there.
Right, big difference from coming from a Legends car up into a late model?
Yeah, I would say definitely the car is definitely the biggest difference. The whole the legend cars are all fixed. All the suspension is adjustable as far as camber and caps and all that, but you can't change pickup points. You can't move the roll center. You can't do trim arm angles. You can't move the pin arm bar. Everything as far as the chassis goes, everything is fixed and everyone has the same thing.
Right.
That's 10 ways to adjust it, whereas a late model you have infinite ways to adjust it.
I know your father, of course, I've known your father for a long, long time. I remember when he ran Legends and, won championships and he won races. And what is it like, you're driving, like you said, it's all about family. Being at the racetrack with your father and family, and, he's a diehard. And does he ever get on you for anything, like during the race now?
Tries to call me with a shock every now and then.
Oh, okay.
There's definitely tough love there. The tunnels have nothing on us. If they had a TV series down here, they'd be pretty impressed. But it's not like we're not consistently like that. Sometimes we work great together and we bounce ideas off each other, and usually everything works out pretty well. And if not, it's usually hand and throat, and it's pretty rough.
Well, yeah, and when you ran Legends, of course, there was no communication where the crew could talk to their driver. So as I mentioned, the last couple of seasons, you've been in a late model where there is two-way communication. So he's pretty hard on the radio?
I'm pretty sure we've had races where I never had a spotter talk to me, and it was just me and him yelling back and forth. And it was just straight up fighting for 30 laps. And people were impressed with us how we could actually stay on the track and not wreck while having an in-depth fight. There's also times where he tries to help me, tries to tell me to move around, and he gives some good input, but sometimes it's just.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, it's like with families and stuff. I mean, I grew up with a tough family. I mean, it's a little bit old school. It's like Jags and like Rocco and stuff like that with with me with the Andersons. I mean, it was tough, growing up back then when you were kids with the racing and this and that, and that was hardcore when you were growing up.
Yeah, I mean, I lived it. I mean, I started working on electric cars, I'm pretty sure, a couple years after I was born. And maybe I wasn't working on them, but I was crawling underneath them and cutting my fingers with razor knives, but, stuff like that. And then, as I learned, I started, turning wrenches, and I'd say by 6 years old, I was able to build a whole legend car. And, I mean, it's 20 years later, I don't know if anyone knows as much as me about legend cars.
And, speaking of the Legends, of course, we've been talking about you have moved up to the late models. How many years now have you been running late models?
I moved up in 2010. I believe this would be my 5th year.
Oh, okay. Now, the Legends division, where you got started, what do you think of the talent that's come out of the Legends division over the last couple of seasons?
I mean, if you ask anyone that's driven a Legend car and has moved up to another division, whether it's Pastriak or even Cassius Clark, I mean, all those guys race Legend cars when they started learning it. And I bet if you ask any one of them what it's like to drive a Legend car compared to a big car, the concept of speed in a Legend car, it feels like it's 2 to 3 times as much as any big car. I mean, horsepower to weight to tire. I've never driven a tour car, but I could imagine that those things probably stick by in a corner and they probably, have the same acceleration off the corner. But I mean, to get a late model, and the trick is not to overdrive it, not to slide around. In a Legend car, it's almost like you need to, you overdrive it just to that edge where you're just starting to overdrive it. And that's where you're fast. If you overdrive too much, you'll probably go spinning around and, take the wall down. But I mean, those cars, you really got to get up on the wheel, and you go into a corner Legend car, you're flying. I mean, it feels like you're going twice as fast as anything.
Yeah, it's one of the things when you get into the smaller cars, like you said, it's tire, motor ratio, what you're driving. That's just like when the Christophers came in, they were driving them go-karts, the speed go-karts there. And they got into the SK, and they're like, where's the power? We figured we'd be getting into this, we'd be getting whiplash going down the straightaway, and it just wasn't the same.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the same thing. I mean, I drove an SK there for a couple of times, Dennis Tavares' car, and I mean, the car just stuck.
I mean, I'm sure it's a blast when you got a fast car and, you got a lot of experience where all four corners are. And I mean, it's just, I got in that car right the same year I got in a late model. And I drove that thing, I think, 3 or 4 events. And it was just, you go down the corner and you're just glued to the track, and you get back to the gas, and it's almost like the motor doesn't respond. I mean, and then you get in a late model. A late model's almost a step between legend cars and SKs, where you got, the car slides around a little bit, you get back to the gas, you get thinner tires, you know what I mean? It's not as glued down, it doesn't have as much tire. It makes it fun. I mean, it still doesn't go on the straightaway feeling like a legend car, but it goes on the straightaway all right.
All right. Well, Jason, thanks for spending some time with us tonight on this edition of Speedway Line Report Radio. I know you just got out of work over at Sign Pro, but we just wanted to touch base with you and talk about how things have been going for you in the 2014 season in the late model that you compete with over at the Waterford Speed Bowl. Did mention that you do got 2 victories. Probably should have had more, right?
Yeah, I mean, everyone always wants more. I think this past weekend was we just put a luck on our part.
And before I let you go, of course, Keith Rocco's won many races in the late model division and, of course, in the SK Modified. But what is it like racing against Keith in the late model division?
I'd say, me and Keith are pretty good friends, and I don't think that anyone has friends on the racetrack. But Keith's driving style, he drives everyone like he wants to be raced. He gives everyone a lane. He runs everyone hard, but he doesn't really use anyone up. I mean, I give the kid a lot of credit. And, I mean, you try to race everyone the way he races. It's just that's good racing. He's got a fast car. He's a good driver. I mean, he gets it done, and he gives respect, and he expects respect back. I mean, that's any racer.
Absolutely. Well, Jason, once again, thank you. Good luck in the remainder of the 2014 season and the late model over Waterford Speed Bowl. Look forward to catching up with you and your dad very soon.
See you later.
You do the same. Jason Palmer joining us tonight on this edition of Speedway Line Report Radio. And I got a chance getting back where he works full-time for Pete Rapocchio, who owns Sign Pro, building that beautiful building over there on Atwater Street in Southington. And of course, I've known Pete for a long, long time. I remember when Pete first started the business, Sign Pro, and there's a whole story. It wasn't Sign Pro when he first started. Someday maybe I'll bring Pete on the show because Pete's been involved in racing for a long time as well. Lettered many of race cars, and someday it's a neat story of how he got the name Sign Pro compared to what it used to be. It used to be, I believe it was Signs Are Us, and we'll leave it at that. But he's done very, very well. You heard Jason say, corporate accounts now that they got. I mean, they've really expanded over the years, and this building now that they got, they'll be able to do a lot more. That's for sure.
Yeah, they're building a big thing over there. You see the sign all the way out front, toward the highway, with Sign Pro. So it's going to be great advertisement for them also. So I mean, that's really good for them guys. They've got a good lot and a good place, and 36,000 square foot. That's just huge.
Right down the road, we talked about it a little bit earlier, Mohawk Northeast, Al Hankey's business. So right there on Atwater Street. So Speedway Line Report Radio is presented to you by Shaler Acura, Manchester, Connecticut, and also being brought to you by Embroidery Works, Jim's Lawn Care Service, Grotto Restaurant, and J.M. Montesano Auto Body.
And your car, your choice, the Auto Body Association of Connecticut.
So a big thank you to our guest tonight. We heard from Eric Goodale, who won at Riverhead Raceway this past Saturday night on the NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour. We heard from Glen Reen, who competes on the NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour and in an SK Modified over at Stafford Motor Speedway. And we just heard from late model driver Jason Palmer. So we will be with you next Monday night from 6 to 7:30 right here on WATR 1320 AM. And of course we do stream online at WATR.com and SpeedwayLineReport.com, Ricky, where we do archive all of our shows.
Yeah, that's you archive all the shows. Take Burning Graves.
Yeah.
You got that? You're good today.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just want to make sure we have a minute left.
Oh, yeah.
You make sure that tape is on. And of course, a big thank you to Robert Baggett, the YouTube guy who gets our show up onto the internet. Big thank you. A lot of people that I've spoke to really love that, actually seeing us do the show. We may have some more off-air stuff that we we'll start playing for you, which I think that would be pretty neat. Ricky, don't you think?
All depends if it gets edited out, I think.
Well, no, actually, I think some people would enjoy that. But anyways, we have a lot of fun here doing Speedway Line Report Radio, and we'll look forward to speaking to you next Monday night. For all of us, I'm Danko. Good night.
Seating has been a GMD production. Don't forget to listen to Gary next Monday night for more auto racing news.
How many seconds
on
did I have
Speedway
left?
Line Report. And in case you didn't catch the entire program tonight, check
it's
the
over,
archive shows at Speedway Line Report.